Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Galit Speaks podcast. I am super excited to be here today. Unfortunately, our scheduled guest could not make it, but I decided that this was the perfect opportunity to talk about something that I haven't been talking about, or that I've really very rarely spoken about in public. I think I mentioned it in passing or maybe on some other podcast that I was trying but never really got to fully express what's going on with me. So I'm going to be talking today about my fertility journey. And it's been, hi, Hannah. Happy you could be here. So it's been a kind of a strange journey. I might have mentioned, but right at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, I got COVID, the original full blown COVID. I had it for 3 weeks and it left me with some issues. I had long COVID. I developed a heart condition called POTS, um, which forced me to go on different medications. One of them was progesterone, which, if you know or you don't know, that's a sex hormone. And it sometimes birth control can be made out of progesterone. It had some huge effects on my body. I gained a significant amount of weight, which for me was super difficult because I had spent so much time really working on myself and working out, and I had finally gotten down to my ideal weight. I had lost 86 pounds, and I was really, really, strong. And then everything kind of hit me all at once, and my health, shifted and had to, the way that I looked had to take a back seat, and I had to really focus on getting my body back to some semblance of normal so that I could live and work and support myself and be the person that me to be. Um, so one of the effects that we believe that COVID may have had is a, a very serious imbalance of my sex hormones, which I did not find out about until my now husband and I started trying to conceive. We started almost 2 years ago now trying. At first, it was just kind of like, okay, I'm not on birth control anymore because of the heart condition, and the doctors put me on some new, some progesterone, which might actually, we thought might help me conceive. And so we said, you know what, let's start trying now because I am older. I'm, you know, uh, I'm 35, so geriatric pregnancy is what they would call it if I got pregnant now. Kind of feels strange because I feel super young. But we started trying, and at first, it was, let's just stop to get pregnant. And then it became, let's start trying to get pregnant. We started really seriously. Um, the first 6 months were kind of like, let's just do this naturally. Follow the apps and when they say to have sex, and let's try to just conceive naturally. And when that didn't work, after we got married, we said, you know what, we're gonna really, really try now. And I got the there's these like strips, ovulation test strips that you can pee on and check to see if you're ovulating and try to time intercourse around it. So we tried we started with that. I started taking tons of supplements. I've been on a prenatal vitamin now for probably a year and a half in total. I started adding more and more things. I'm taking maca, DHA, prenatal DHA, omega-3, vitamin D, every vitamin that we could think of. I started making myself what I called fertility drinks, which is organic watermelon juice, organic ginger juice, and organic beet juice, and I'd mix them all and drink it down. I started, asking my gynecologist, what's wrong? Can we do testing? And that was about a year ago when we started doing, the serious testing, talking to people, talking to my gynecologist, starting to try to figure out like what's wrong, why is this not happening? And so with my gynecologist, it's been a very weird ride. I can say that I'm really not happy with the way that office treated me and my journey. They were not helpful at all. They did send me out to do testing, which I appreciate because that has helped me now. They had me do a bunch of testing. They didn't actually see anything particularly wrong. I had a surgery to remove a polyp, which they thought wouldn't prevent me being pregnant, but it would possibly cause miscarriages. So I got that done. I did all these really invasive, painful tests, including one where they basically put a balloon past your cervix and inject dye into your tubes to make sure that they're clear, and everything came back perfectly fine. My husband did sperm analysis and that came back fine, and we were just stuck. And so my gynecologist suggested this fertility drug called Clomid. Now the thing with Clomid is when you're taking it and you're taking it under a doctor, they, on a certain day of your cycle, you have to have a sonogram, and you need to check, how the follicles are developing, how the eggs are going, and they never had an appointment for me. So more than 6 months in a row, the Clomid sat in my house, and I waited month after month, calling them. I had to call them on the day one of my cycle, calling them on day one, them telling me they didn't have an appointment for my sonogram and that I would have to wait another month. Actually went to their office and spoke to the coordinator, the coordinator who schedules the sonograms and stuff like that. And I cried in her office for probably an hour, because by that point, it's been over a year. We have been trying every single month. I am devastated when I get my period. So I'm crying in this office from the surgical coordinator. She's telling me all the right things, telling me that no problem. She's so sorry that this is happening. She promises that for the next 2 months, she will save me a spot on the specific days of my cycle. I call I say, cool, all right, I'll wait. I wait, and the next month it happens again, and I ask, what happened to the spot that you promised me you saved me? And she says, oh, my manager went above my head and gave it to somebody else. They were a priority. And that really hurt, right? Because I did all the right things. I've been waiting for months. You've promised me this spot. You said I was a priority, and now someone else came in and you gave them the spot, and I'm not the priority. And then she tells me something that was even more hurtful. She said, you work and travel too much. And if you want to have a baby, you can't do that. You have to be at our beck and call, and it has to be according to our schedule. And you can't have travels. You can't go, you can't travel for work. You can't, have a normal work day. You have to be according to our schedule. And that made me feel really horrible. Like, she was telling me that because of my schedule, I wasn't fit to be a mother and I didn't deserve the same kind of treatment that the other patients were getting. So I decided again, like, hey, I'm going to start, what else can I do? I researched more supplements. I started to do acupuncture every week. So fertility acupuncture every week. And that was actually really, really super beneficial, even though it did not ultimately help me conceive yet. But it is supposed to help with egg quality, and it has also actually helped tremendously with my menstrual cycle and cramps. So I've always been super regular as far as my menstrual cycle, other than the 2 times that I had COVID, where everything was kind of thrown out of whack and all of my cycles were off. Otherwise, it's, I'm super regular, but what I have had my entire life is really, really, really painful periods and, very heavy, 8 days, super, super painful. And I found out that, through some of the testing that was done at the gynecologist, I actually found out that I have something that is not necessarily super rare, but it is rare and you don't necessarily hear about it a lot. And it's called adenomyosis, which is, so a lot of people heard of endometriosis, where that is when the tissue from your uterine lining goes to other parts of your body, and that is super painful. Adenomyosis is when the blood and the tissue actually goes into the muscle of your uterus, and it is super painful. But technically, it stays in the right place of the body. It doesn't travel to other parts of the body, but it is somewhere where it's not supposed to be. And so when you're having cramps, you're literally cramping with like blood and tissue in between. And so it's extra painful. So the acupuncture, the fertility acupuncture, actually helped with the pain of my periods, and the cramps are super manageable now, and they are way less. And it's almost like when my period came, it was like, oh, like this is what it should have been the whole time. Like this is like barely, this is manageable. This I can go about my day normally. which wasn't necessarily the case. Like before the first 2 days of my period, I would be, just forcing myself through the day and doing breathing exercises to like keep me going. And it wasn't a great experience. And then on top of that, to also have this pain, emotional pain around each cycle, because every time you get your period, not only do you have cramps, but you're reminded that yet again you are not pregnant, and you're no closer to getting pregnant or even finding out what the hell is happening and why it's not working. And it's also painful seeing people around me get pregnant, and that me being so incredibly happy for them, but also so incredibly sad that it wasn't happening to me. And going through in my mind, like, maybe I waited too long. Maybe I don't have any eggs left. Maybe, maybe my dream of being a mother won't happen. And thinking about other kinds of ways to have a baby, adoption or fostering, and knowing that because of me working for myself, and not having a W-2 income, adoption is kind of a difficult process in the United States when everything is perfect. And, having gone through COVID and a heart condition, and like, I just felt like it was going to be super difficult to be able to even qualify for adoption, much less have it be like a really lengthy and emotionally draining and financially draining process. Because you're talking about lawyers, you're talking about adoption agencies, you're talking about so many things, and thinking about like, do I try a fertility clinic? And when you're thinking about that, like, I'm self-employed, and unfortunately in the United States, no self-employed insurance in my state gives fertility benefits, like zero. So everything is out of pocket for me. Like, my acupuncture has been out of pocket. All my supplements have been out of pocket. The majority of the tests have been out of pocket. And you know how it is in the United States for testing. We're talking about out of pocket means like, here's $500, here's another $600, here's $200, $400, $300. I've been working with a naturopath for 3 years. All of that is out of pocket. Or I've been working with the naturopath since my heart condition was diagnosed. So I would say that's probably a little over 2 years. So all of those things are completely, out of pocket for me. And it's scary to think about the, wanting this so bad, and then also being financially responsible, and understanding that having a kid in and of itself is a huge financial burden. But when you add what it takes to have a kid going through fertility treatments, you're adding a whole financial burden in front of the actual burden. And if you've been following my Money Mondays, then I've been saving for a child. I've been saving for their future. I started a 529 plan a while ago now, and started investing money away in it for a college fund for, you know, my child's education. And this is a whole other expense that I was thinking, you know, my family, my mother had 6 kids. All of those kids have kids, except for me at this point. And some of them have like 5. One of them has 5. Others have 3. There's only one other one that has 1. And so, you know, I assumed I come from a fertile family. I'm going to be hella fertile. And it's going to be, you know, I thought like, yeah, with my age, maybe it'll be a little bit harder, but I should be able to do it. I want to just go to the comments for a second because I saw Hannah wrote some stuff. Hannah says, I'm in the same boat. You're not alone. And she did free stuff back when that was feasible. She calls it Hannah's Canadian Navy, which is a bunch of semen on ice. I love it. I love your puns, Hannah. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I did not do that, and I wonder if I should have years ago when I was like, you know, I'm not ready to have kids right now, but I want them someday, and maybe I should have, you know, maybe I should have froze some eggs. Maybe I should have done that. And it was really hard, you know, feeling like I wanted to punish myself for not doing the things and then know that it was too late now to do the things. So it's turmoil, right? It's this weird journey where nothing is certain, and every month you try again, and every month you get your hopes up. And if my period was even a few days late, I was taking like 3 pregnancy tests, and my hopes were getting up, and each month when it's not pregnant, it's crushing. Like, I have cried more in the last year and a half than probably my entire life. And it's just been a process that's also super lonely. I've recently joined a bunch of support groups on Facebook, but everyone is going through their own journey, and it's so completely different that it's nice to have that, but these are also people I don't necessarily know. And the people that I do know, there have been a few that I shared with, and a few that also went through or are currently going through a fertility journey, and that has helped immensely. Just having someone to like bounce ideas off of, to get advice from, to keep my spirits up when they go super low. It's invaluable. So the support groups have helped. There are a bunch of them on Facebook. So if you're going through your own fertility journey, I'd recommend looking one up. The latest in my journey, so I've talked about, acupuncture and everything, and I'm still doing that, and I'm still doing all of my supplements. I worked with a nutritionist and really tried to get my nutrition to the point where it needed to be, in order to get pregnant and sustain a pregnancy. I'm working on getting super fit again, starting to, I've been walking 5 miles a day. I started about 2 or 3 weeks ago. At first, just walking 2 to 3 miles a day. I'm up to 5 miles a day now. Have been doing that pretty consistently for over a week now. probably almost 2 weeks, which I feel super strong and good. But is I decided to bite the bullet and go to a fertility clinic. My acupuncturist recommended a couple of fertility clinics. I picked one that sounded the best, had the best reviews, sounded like the doctor was someone that speaks my language. And I went, and I have a plan. And what's crazy is, like, it felt like nature was against me completely, because the day that I went to see the fertility doctor, so first of all, here's what's going on. He found out that I have a hormonal imbalance that actually prevents ovulation. So this entire time that I have been trying, I could not have gotten pregnant because my body simply is not releasing the eggs. I found out that he does speak my language, which is the language of numbers. He told me statistically, good news, I have room for twins, which is kind of like a weird thing to hear, of like, your womb, your uterus, like being like an apartment for people. But I have room for 2. I also found out that I am actually, the way that the eggs are set up in my ovaries, I have a greater chance of twins or multiples, which in and of itself is a little scary. I had always thought of one and one only. Having 2 is a challenge. Having 3 sounds impossible, or more, right? And I'll explain to you why I'm saying that. But I found out that I have almost 6 years worth of eggs left. So good eggs, right? So that I feel a lot of relief when it comes to that, there's still time, and I haven't quite yet run out of time, which is, and there's so many levels to this, the feeling like I ran out of time or I missed my chance. And maybe I'll share those stories with you a different day. But so that, why I'm saying that it feels like nature was against me, because that day I left with a plan, and to start Femara, which is another fertility medication, also called letrozole. And I was on day 19 of my cycle, and I was supposed to, in 9 days, be able to start the fertility process and take the medication, to start the cycle, to take the medication. And that night, I had a booth at an event, and I was vending outside, and out of nowhere, never even saw it, a bee stung me. And I had never been stung by a bee before. And that is how I found out that I am allergic to bees, to bee venom. And it threw my body for another loop. And I had a pretty severe allergic reaction. Thankfully, it is not anaphylactic, so I don't need an EpiPen. But it stung me on my finger, and it swelled up, and took a good week and a half, possibly 2 weeks, to actually to go back to normal. It was very scary, and it also delayed my period. It delayed my cycle for an additional, I think I was 10 days late. So that was another 10 days where, like, I finally have this plan. I'm finally, gonna start trying with like a doctor who knows what they're talking about, and then I'm stuck waiting again. And after being pushed off month after month after month after month with my gynecologist, it was just so exasperating, and I felt like I was just going to break down, and like I couldn't continue and I couldn't keep going. And it got super dark for me. I was starting to give up, and I finally allowed myself to just break down and cry. And just the next day, I guess all of that pent up emotion, it was even delaying my period longer. And the next day I got my period. And I will say, I have started the Femara, I've started the Letrozole, I started that. I did 5 days of that. This is my first cycle with the fertility clinic. We are taking the least aggressive approach right now, because of the the fear of multiples, and the fact that it seems like that's what my body is, with anything stronger, there's my chance of multiples pretty much goes up kind of exponentially. With what I'm doing right now, I think it's like 18% chance, and if I do the next step up, it's that goes up to like a 38% chance of multiples. If I do IVF, we're talking a 96% chance of conceiving and possibly conceiving multiples. So we decided to go with the lowest form. So I am currently doing that, and that is, these pills. And then I had to give myself a shot called Ovidril, which is a trigger shot, and that is supposed to trigger ovulation. So I've done that already. And also every night I have to, for lack of a better word, like inject, but it's not actually in the skin. It's I have to insert progesterone cream into down there. So that's been like a weird kind of thing. And then after I did the shot, there was certain times when my husband and I needed to have intercourse. So I've been warned already that it is super, super incredibly rare to get pregnant on the first try with this method. I won't know for another few weeks if it worked or not. I can't test for a while because the injection that I had to give myself, which that was like a whole other thing, right? It honestly was not that bad. I was hoping that, my husband would give it to me, but he saw the needle and immediately was like, nope, can't do it, had to turn away. So I ended up giving it to myself, and with all the anxiety built up around it, I did the injection and then immediately started crying afterwards, just like all this like relief, and just all this pent up emotion just kind of came out, because it's hard to like stick yourself with a needle and then like push the stuff in. And I did it and it wasn't that bad. And so I've done that, but that injection actually contains the hormone that pregnancy test for. So I have to wait until it's completely out of my bloodstream to see, and completely out of my urine to be able to take a pregnancy test and see if it worked this month. I'm hopeful, but also not trying to get my hopes up, because I understand mentally how rare it is to actually work on the first cycle. And so I'm in like a weird waiting period yet again of, I hope it worked. I did all the things that I could possibly do. And now we wait. So what I didn't tell you is like, what's also scary about this cycle is, so I had, in order to tell me when to do the injection, I had to have a sonogram. And when I had my sonogram, I had, so basically the medicine is to stimulate multiple follicles to release an egg. And when I had my sonogram, I had 3 mature follicles and 4 more follicles that would be mature by injection. So this cycle, I released 7 eggs, which is so freaky, because I could, one of them could be fertilized, 2 of them could be fertilized, none of them could be fertilized, or 7 of them could be fertilized. And it is kind of a total mind F, right? Like, I have no idea what I'm in for. And I want it to work, and I want it to work really well, but I don't want it to work too well. And so I've been doing also all these meditations and visualizing, and I'm really kind of trying to get my body to listen to what it is that I want, and I'm hoping beyond hopes that it works this round, and that it's just 1 egg that gets fertilized. I could deal with twins. Anything more than that, especially 7, it seems like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I could possibly do, how I could deal with that. And that's not even safe for me, right? I have space for 2. Anything above that could be really dangerous. Anything above, I'd say 3 could probably be pretty dangerous for me. And so there's all these other thoughts of like, if that happens, like, do I have to do a reduction? Which, how do you decide? Like, how does it, how could I decide to reduce the number of eggs inside me? Like, the embryos, it's especially after, like, I've waited and I've tried for so long. So yeah, I'm just really hoping, and in the words of like the support groups, I'm wishing baby dust on myself, and hoping that this is the cycle that it works. If it doesn't work this time, I am going to IUI. I'm going to start IUI next cycle. That is, so the same thing. I'm going to take the pills. I'm going to have a trigger shot. The only difference is that I will be going to the clinic, and they will be taking my husband's sperm and washing it and then inserting it exactly where it needs to be in order to fertilize the egg. Which, this cycle was, because I have no fertility benefits, so it was pretty, it wasn't cheap. I think I did it very economically. I got, I used GoodRx for the pills, which the pills only ended up coming out to about like $6 at Costco. And then I shopped in other different pharmacies for the progesterone cream and the trigger shot, and those came out to about like $240. And then my sonogram was $300 at my fertility clinic. Thankfully, they've been really good and are really good about only charging the absolute minimum that they have, and really helped me locate different pharmacies that would, give me the cheapest deals on the medications and still the same quality product. So I'm really grateful to them. So that was this cycle, and IUI will be, because there's there are other procedures involved. That is going to be more expensive, and if that doesn't work, we have to decide whether to continue doing IUI with multiple trigger shots. With I could do 3 trigger shots with which increases my chance of multiples by 38%, I believe he said. Or we can go straight to IVF. And I don't know if you've heard about IVF, but a lot of people estimate that it's about $30,000 per cycle. So I'm hoping that I don't have to go that route, but I'm also kind of balancing it out whether I continue to try IUIs or I go straight to IVF, being that is the most the biggest chance for me to actually conceive. Like that is the almost guaranteed, like 96% that I will conceive with IVF. And that also might give me a chance to like freeze some eggs as well if I want to do it again. But I could freeze the eggs now and not have to go through this whole process again in a couple of years if I decide that I do want to have another child. I'm going to go back to the comments because I see Hannah commented a few more things. She said it worries her at 38 that even if she can't get pregnant in the first place, the person with a uterus she hopefully one day meets may have passed that window themselves. Yeah, it's super scary. Like you might find somebody with a uterus that wants to have a baby with you, but they might not be able to do it anymore. And I want to tell you, Hannah, that my sister did IVF in her 40s. She was the only other one that hadn't had a baby, and she thought she wasn't going to have one. And then in her 40s, she decided to do IVF, and she succeeded in her mid 40s and has a beautiful, healthy baby. So it is possible, for a while. I would say get insurance that covers that, because her insurance covered it. When I started having my fertility issues, a lot of stuff came out of the woodwork that my family was not necessarily as fertile as I thought. And that's their story to share. But, there was IVF, there was miscarriages, there were things that nobody talked about, or nobody told me about until I was already going through this myself. Yeah, so it's still possible. One of the things I did find out is that, and I considered it is that Starbucks, if you work for Starbucks proper, then you can get fertility benefits. And a lot of people going through fertility treatments actually get part-time jobs at Starbucks or full-time jobs at Starbucks, and they stay there until they get pregnant. And that's like a possibility, right? You can do that and be able to have a have a health insurance that pays for fertility benefits. I was also recently in Israel, and found out that if I moved back to Israel, which is something that I'm thinking, is a possibility sometime down the line, and maybe I should think about it more seriously if I do have to do IVF. The health insurance in Israel, the basic health insurance, the health insurance that everybody gets and I would qualify for as a citizen, has IVF included. All of the treatments are included. And so, there's another option. So the next thing that Hannah said is cross the reduction question when you get there. Frankly speaking, if you have multiple embryos start up, a few will reduce themselves, and in the off chance you really need to do something, just remember you are helping the other embryos thrive just as much as protecting your own life. You will have lots of support. Thank you, Hannah. It's something that I'm trying not to think about. It's something that I'm trying to not even get my hopes up to believe that I will get pregnant this cycle, just because it is so hard when I don't get pregnant. It throws me off. I'm already hormonal because I got my period, but it's just a whole other level that's been so difficult to even talk about. And it's really kind of, in a way, made me hide. It's made me seriously hide in a lot of parts of my life, just because I was going through this thing that I felt like no one around me could really understand. Especially having people around me that got pregnant by mistake and, were saying things like, oh, you'll get pregnant. It's so easy. Just get drunk and have sex and it'll happen for you. And it wasn't happening, and I think it's super hard for people to understand that. And especially when you spend life making sure that you didn't get pregnant, and making sure that you weren't going to get pregnant, and being told, oh, it's so easy, you could have sex once and get pregnant, and then be trying for over a year and a half and it not happening, and you start to feel like there's something wrong with you and you're ruined and your body is not good. And that paired with all of the other things that had gone on, the weight gain, the heart condition, and just not feeling healthy or like myself, and it just all compounded one on top of each other and has just made for a really hard journey that made me just want to close in on myself and protect myself from the outside world and show up less and less and less. So I'm taking a stand right now to distance myself from that and to come out and to be open about my journey and to talk about it and be able to share the shitty things that happen and also the awesome things that happen, and let people know that they're not alone. And because I think that's the hardest thing, that everybody, it's so personal and it hurts so much that we just try to hide it. And I only knew really one person in my life when it started to be really, really real for me, like after a year of trying, I only knew one person in my life that had actually gone through a hard fertility journey, and I reached out to them. But since then, I found out that I know more, and I think I would have felt less alone, and it may have hurt less if I had known that there were more people out there in my life that could relate. Hannah said, taking on Israeli citizenship is a very serious consideration for her for precisely that, and general love of the place. It even supports surrogacy now for non-cis and straight couples too. It was an interesting question whether her trans male ex and her, if they had gotten to that relationship point, would have likely have passed through the powers that regulate the process, even under the old limitations. She desperately wanted to be that test case, though it probably has happened before. Yeah. I mean, I really hope that it works out for you, Hannah. I remember that when I first met you, we had a conversation about this. And that was before, I even started my journey. And we were just kind of talking about what happens in your case, and that you had frozen sperm in order to have a biological child one day. So I'm here to support you when you go through that journey. And if you want to talk now, please feel free to call me. You know my door is always open. You know that there's a place in my house here. I've got an extra bedroom for you if you want to come visit in Arizona. I love you and I support you. And anyone that's going through this journey and doesn't want to do it alone, I mean, I love you all and I support you all, and I'm here. So you can reach out to me on Instagram, Galit Speaks, or financial_sharktress. You can email me, you can call me, whatever you want to do. If you need to talk to me, if you need somebody to talk to, if you need to know to the specific groups that I'm in, the specific support groups. When I started to share my story, the response, because I've shared it super briefly, like in my Instagram stories, when major letdowns happened and I was crying and couldn't control myself, I shared little bits and pieces of my story, and the outpouring of love and support is what has kept me going until this point. So if I could be that love and support for you, for someone else that is going on this journey, I would love to be. And we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes from here. And I wish myself luck on my first cycle, and anybody else who's going through it, I wish you luck on your cycles. And hopefully in a few months, I will have good news, and there can be another podcast episode about maybe the joy that I'm feeling as a pregnant person in a couple of months. And I think that's the best outcome that I can hope for myself. So with that, we're coming up on an hour, so I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sharing. Please continue to share. If you are in my Facebook group, please share. If you're watching this on my Facebook page or YouTube or LinkedIn or anywhere else, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out. Like, subscribe, do all of the things. share this video with someone that you think needs to hear it. I know you guys are out there. And if you don't want to say your own story, I'm happy to share it for you. If you want to come on the podcast and talk about your story, I would love to have you. Just reach out to me. Have an amazing evening, everyone, and tune in on Monday for an episode of Money Monday Live, and next Wednesday for another episode of this podcast, Galit Speaks. And I will see you then. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.